I thought they'd muted me. I really did. But when my boss, Marcus Chen, said those 4 words that would change everything, "She's not there yet," I realized the universe had other plans. There I was, sitting in my cramped Chicago apartment, staring at my laptop screen during what was supposed to be my performance review. Except Marcus wasn't talking to me. He was talking about me, to someone else on the call I couldn't see. The morning had started like any other Tuesday in November. Coffee that tasted like disappointment, the radiator making those awful clanking sounds, and Lake Michigan's wind rattling my windows like an angry ghost. I'd been working at Meridian Tech Solutions for 3 years, climbing my way up from junior analyst to senior consultant. Or so I thought. "Listen, David," Marcus continued, completely unaware I could hear every word. "Rebecca Martinez has potential, but she's not ready for the promotion. She's not there yet. Maybe in another year or 2. My blood turned to ice. David. That had to be David Rodriguez, the VP of Operations. They were discussing my future without me, probably deciding my fate before I even logged into what I believed was going to be a celebration of my achievements. I'd worked 60-hour weeks for months. I'd single-handedly saved the Patterson account when their previous consultant quit without notice. I'd mentored 3 junior employees and increased our department's efficiency by 37%. My numbers were flawless. My client feedback was outstanding, but I wasn't there yet. The Chicago skyline blurred through my tears of rage. 28 years old, and I was still being treated like I was fresh out of college. I'd given this company everything. My evenings, my weekends, my relationship with my sister Elena, who kept asking why I never visited anymore. She's dedicated, I'll give her that. Marcus's voice crackled through my speakers. But leadership qualities? I'm not seeing it. She follows orders well, but taking initiative? Making tough decisions? She needs more seasoning. More seasoning. Like I was a piece of meat they were preparing for dinner. That's when something inside me snapped. Not broke. Snapped. Like a rubber band that had been stretched too far for too long. My finger moved to the unmute button before my brain could stop it. "Thank you, Marcus," I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. "I appreciate your honest feedback." The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear Marcus's heart stop beating through the computer screen. "Rebecca, how long have you been on the call?" His voice had that high-pitched quality of a man who'd just stepped on a landmine. "Long enough," I replied, opening my desk drawer and pulling out the resignation letter I'd written 6 months ago, but never had the courage to send. "And Marcus, you're absolutely right. I'm not there yet. But you know what? Neither are you." I cleared my throat and began reading. "Dear Meridian Tech Solutions Management Team, please accept this letter as my formal notice of resignation from my position as senior consultant, effective immediately." "Rebecca, wait." Marcus's panic was beautiful music to my ears. "I've realized that my skills, dedication, and vision would be better utilized elsewhere," I continued, each word feeling like sweet revenge, where leadership recognizes talent instead of talking behind it. David's voice finally joined the call. "Rebecca, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding at all, David. I understand perfectly now. You both think I'm not ready for leadership? Well, here's some leadership for you. I'm leading myself right out of this company. The power surging through my veins was intoxicating. For 3 years, I'd been the good employee, the team player, the one who never rocked the boat. But boats are meant to be rocked sometimes. I'll send my formal letter through HR within the hour," I said, saving the document I'd just finished typing. "And Marcus, next time you want to discuss someone's future, you might want to make sure they're not listening." I ended the call and slammed my laptop shut so hard I was surprised the screen didn't crack. The silence in my apartment was deafening after I hung up. For exactly 37 seconds I felt like Wonder Woman. Then reality crashed down like a Chicago winter storm. What had I just done? My phone started buzzing immediately. First Marcus, then David, then 3 calls from HR within 10 minutes. I watched each call go to voicemail, my stomach churning like Lake Michigan during a November gale. I lived in a studio apartment in Lincoln Park that cost more than my car payment and student loan combined. Without my salary, I had maybe 2 months of savings. Maybe 3 if I survived on ramen noodles and gave up my gym membership. "Elena, I think I just made the biggest mistake of my life." I said when my sister picked up on the fourth ring. "Did you finally tell off that horrible boss of yours?" Elena Martinez Hoffman had been waiting for this moment since I'd started complaining about work 2 years ago. I quit, during my performance review, while he was talking about me to someone else like I wasn't even there. Rebecca Esperanza Martinez, you are my hero. That made one of us. I was pacing my tiny apartment, stepping over yesterday's clothes and the stack of self-help books I'd bought but never read. The self-actualized professional. Lean in for the modern woman. Boss up, transform your career. All useless now. Elena, I don't have another job lined up. I don't have a plan. I just exploded. Sometimes explosions clear the path for new growth, she said, and I could practically hear her stirring something on the stove. Elena was always cooking when she was thinking. Remember when Mount St. Helens erupted? Devastation at first, but then the ecosystem came back stronger. Are you seriously comparing my career suicide to a volcanic eruption? If the metaphor fits. By evening, my LinkedIn was buzzing. Word travels fast in Chicago's tech scene, and apparently, my dramatic resignation had become the stuff of legend. 3 former colleagues reached out, 2 offering references, 1 offering a drink and a listening ear. But it was the message from Samantha Chen, no relation to Marcus, thankfully, that made me stop pacing. "Rebecca, I heard what happened today. I'm the regional director at Catalyst Innovation. We should talk. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Starbucks on Michigan Avenue. I'll be wearing a red scarf. Come ready to discuss your future, not your past." I stared at the message for 20 minutes. Catalyst Innovation was one of the biggest consulting firms in the Midwest. They'd tried to recruit me 18 months ago, but I'd been loyal to Meridian, loyal to people who thought I wasn't there yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. The city sounds felt different. Car horns seemed more urgent, sirens more frequent. Even the L train sounded like it was rushing towards something important, instead of just carrying tired people home. I kept replaying Marcus's words. She's not there yet. Where exactly was there? And who decided the destination anyway? At 3 a.m., I made a list of everything I'd accomplished at Meridian. Increased Patterson account revenue by 127%. Reduced client complaints in my department to 0. Trained 6 employees who'd all been promoted. Created the efficiency protocol now used company-wide. Never missed a deadline. Never lost a client. If that wasn't there, then maybe there wasn't somewhere I wanted to be anyway. I spent the rest of the night researching Catalyst Innovation. Their values, their client list, their company culture. By sunrise, I wasn't just ready for that meeting. I was hungry for it. My phone rang at 7 a.m. Marcus again. This time I answered. "Rebecca, I need you to come in today. We need to discuss—" "No, Marcus. We don't need to discuss anything." I resigned. "You have my letter. End of story. The partners want to make this right. We're prepared to offer you the promotion, plus a 20% salary increase." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You mean the promotion you just told David I wasn't ready for? The one I apparently need more seasoning for? That was a miscommunication." "No, that was honesty. Probably the first honest thing you've said about my performance in 3 years. And you know what? I'm grateful for it. It finally showed me what you really think of me. Rebecca, please, don't let pride destroy your career." "I'm not destroying my career, Marcus. I'm saving it." I hung up and started getting ready for the most important coffee meeting of my life. Samantha Chen was nothing like I expected. Where I'd imagined a sharp-suited corporate shark, I found a woman in her 40s wearing jeans, sneakers, and that promised red scarf, typing furiously on her laptop in the corner of the bustling Michigan Avenue Starbucks. "Rebecca Martinez?" She stood up, extending her hand with a smile that reached her eyes. "I'm Sam. Thanks for meeting me on such short notice." The November wind had been brutal during my walk from the train station, and I was probably looking like I'd wrestled with a tornado. But Sam's warmth immediately put me at ease. "I have to ask," she said as we settled into our seats. "How did it feel?" "How did what feel?" "Quitting like that. On the call." I've been in corporate America for 22 years, and I've never heard of anything quite so poetic. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, feeling the warmth seep into my frozen fingers. Honestly, terrifying and liberating at the same time. Like jumping off a cliff and discovering you can fly. but also realizing you might crash. Sam laughed, a genuine throaty sound that made other patrons look over. That's exactly the kind of honest self-awareness we need at Catalyst. For the next hour, she told me about their company culture, their commitment to developing talent, their belief that the best leaders are often the ones who've been underestimated elsewhere. It sounded almost too good to be true. Can I tell you something, Rebecca? Yesterday wasn't the first time I'd heard your name. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. What do you mean? 3 months ago, I was at a conference in downtown Chicago. Industry networking event at the Palmer House. Your former client, Janet Patterson, gave a presentation about successful consulting partnerships. She spent 15 minutes talking about you. Didn't mention Meridian once, but she said Rebecca Martinez was the best consultant she'd ever worked with. My heart started racing. Janet Patterson was a legend in Chicago's business community. Her opinion carried weight. She said you saved her company not through fancy presentations or expensive solutions, but by listening, by understanding her business like it was your own, by caring more about her success than your commission. I felt tears building behind my eyes. She never told me that. Leaders like Janet don't usually gush publicly about vendors, but she made an exception for you. That's when I started keeping tabs on your career. The pieces were falling into place. So when you heard about yesterday, I saw an opportunity. Rebecca, Meridian didn't deserve you. But more than that, you were never going to reach your potential there because they'd already decided who you were. They'd put you in a box, and boxes are designed to contain, not to grow. She leaned forward, her expression becoming more serious. I want to offer you a position as Senior Director of Client Innovation. It's a newly created role, which means you'd be building it from the ground up. No box, no preconceptions, just results and creativity. My brain struggled to process what she was saying. Senior Director? But yesterday, Marcus said I wasn't ready for a senior consultant promotion. Marcus doesn't know what leadership looks like, Sam said, her voice carrying a slight edge. Leadership isn't about following protocols and checking boxes. It's about seeing possibilities others miss. It's about having the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. She pulled out a folder from her bag. Like quitting on a conference call when you realize you're worth more than how you're being treated. The offer letter inside made my hands shake. The salary was 40% higher than what I'd been making at Meridian. The title was 2 levels above where I'd been. But more than that, the job description read like it had been written specifically for me. There's one condition, Sam said as I stared at the papers. We need you to start Monday. I know it's fast, but we're launching a new client engagement next week, and I think you're exactly what they need. Monday? That's 5 days away. Too fast? I thought about my empty apartment, my non-existent plans, and Marcus's voice saying I wasn't there yet. Then I thought about Janet Patterson's praise, about Elena's volcano metaphor, about the feeling of power I'd experienced yesterday when I finally stood up for myself. It's perfect, I said, reaching for the pen Sam offered. When do I start? Monday morning arrived crisp and clear, the kind of Chicago winter day where the sky looks like it's been scrubbed clean and Lake Michigan sparkles like it's trying to show off. I stood outside the Catalyst Innovation Building on Wacker Drive, looking up at the glass tower that was about to become my new professional home. My reflection in the lobby's polished marble floors showed a woman I barely recognized. Same Rebecca Martinez, but different somehow. Straighter shoulders, steadier gaze, more confident stride. Maybe this was what there looked like. Rebecca! Sam's voice echoed across the spacious lobby. She was walking toward me with a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit. I want you to meet our CEO, Michael Rodriguez. Welcome to Catalyst, Michael said, his handshake firm and warm. Sam's told me about your dramatic entrance into the job market. I have to say, it takes real character to put principles before paychecks. It wasn't really a choice at that point, I admitted. It was more like self-preservation. The best decisions usually are, he replied with a knowing smile. The tour of the office felt like walking through a dream. Open, collaborative spaces, natural light flooding in from floor-to-ceiling windows, a coffee bar that looked like it belonged in a boutique cafe, and everywhere I looked, people who seemed genuinely engaged with their work. Your office, Sam said, opening a door to a corner space with a view of the Chicago River. And your first client file. The folder she handed me was thick, marked Pinnacle Logistics, Operational Restructure. I recognized the name immediately. They were one of the largest shipping companies in the Midwest, known for their old-school approach and resistance to change. They specifically requested someone with a fresh perspective, Sam explained. Someone who understands both the technical side and the human element of business transformation. Someone who's not afraid to challenge the status quo. I spent the morning diving into Pinnacle's case study. Their problem was complex but familiar. A family-owned business struggling to modernize while maintaining their core values. Efficiency was down, employee satisfaction was declining, and their biggest competitor was eating into their market share. But as I read through their history, their interviews, their financial reports, I started seeing patterns that others had missed. This wasn't just about updating systems or restructuring departments. This was about people feeling heard, valued, respected. It was about leadership that listened instead of just directing. It was about everything I'd wished for at Meridian. At 2 p.m., I was scheduled to call Thomas Pinnacle, the company's third-generation CEO. My stomach was doing gymnastics, but for the first time in years, it was excitement rather than dread. Mr. Pinnacle, this is Rebecca Martinez from Catalyst Innovation. Ms. Martinez. His voice was gruff, but not unfriendly. Sam Chen speaks very highly of you. Says you have an unconventional approach. I believe in listening first, judging never, and finding solutions that honor both progress and tradition. There was a pause. That's exactly what we need. My grandfather built this company on relationships, not spreadsheets. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight of that. Can you help us find our way back? 4 hours later, I hung up from what had been one of the most energizing conversations of my professional life. Thomas Pinnacle wasn't resistant to change. He was hungry for the right kind of change. Change that made his company stronger without sacrificing what made it special. As the sun began setting over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reflected off the river below, I realized something profound had shifted, not just in my career, but in how I saw myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. How was day one of your new life? I looked around my office, at the Pinnacle file marked with notes and ideas, at the view that would greet me every morning, at the business cards with my new title, Rebecca Martinez, Senior Director of Client Innovation. Perfect, I texted back. I think I finally made it there. But the truth was, there had never been a destination. It had always been a decision. The decision to value myself enough to demand better. The decision to take risks in service of my potential. The decision to turn Marcus's dismissal into my liberation. 6 months later, the Pinnacle project would be featured as a case study in Harvard Business Review. A year later, I'd be promoted to vice president. 2 years later, I'd be giving my own presentation at that same Palmer House conference where Janet Patterson had unknowingly changed my life. But none of that mattered as much as what happened the next morning when Marcus Chen called one more time. Rebecca. His voice was smaller now, defeated. I heard about your success at Catalyst. I wanted to apologize. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. We could really use someone with your talents back at Meridian. I know we didn't handle things well, but... Marcus, I interrupted gently. I need you to understand something. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And more importantly, I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. But what if we offered... I'm there, Marcus. I made it there. Just not where you thought there was. I hung up and walked to my window, watching Chicago wake up below me. Somewhere in this city, there was probably another Rebecca Martinez, sitting in another cubicle, listening to another Marcus tell someone else she wasn't ready yet. I hoped she was brave enough to prove him wrong. Because sometimes the best thing that can happen to your career is someone telling you that you're not good enough. It gives you permission to show them just how wrong they are.